Want to thank you all for joining us this evening. My name is Deborah Hurston. I'm the Executive Director of ABAP. And today we're going to be taking a look at how to make your money make money. ABAP is extremely focused on helping individuals make the most of their life's journey as they use their resources, their financial resources. And today, one of our Financial Empowerment Center Task Force members has stepped in to host this important discussion. This is a two-part series. Her name is Tia Tebow, and I'm going to have her share with you some of her background and to introduce our panelists to lead us through this discussion.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Tia Tebow. I am a personal risk advisor for a brokerage in Bloomington, and I'm really excited to host this event tonight and introduce our panelists. So thank you for joining us for our first part of the two-part program, Making Your Money Make Money, Goal, Plan, Execute, and Beyond. And I'd like to introduce our panelists. Our first panelist serves as Bremer's Vice President, Community Impact Manager. He has developed an extensive background in mortgage lending, small business banking, wealth building, and credit analysis. He is responsible for leading efforts to educate first-time homebuyers and low to moderate income families in the Twin Cities. Let's welcome Trent Bowman.
Thank you.
Our next guest is a distinguished certified financial educator, entrepreneur, and leader. She is the founder and CEO of SLAP Financial Consulting, LLC. She focuses on empowering underserved communities by offering financial education and resources. Tanya has walked her own walk in overcoming debt and wealth building, which fuels her passion for guiding others towards financial independence. Welcome, Tanya Breezy.
Thank you.
Right. So first question, how do you define financial success for yourself? Trent?
That's a great question. Financial success, excuse me, for myself is basically making sure that I'm living within my means, being able to have reserve and have funds available in case of an emergency. How does that work? How did I get that discipline to do that? Sometimes you gotta go through some of the hard knocks of life, because one of the things that as we're growing up, we're not really taught the ability to save. You know, we're not taught to put money away. We're not really taught to manage our credit. So you had to go through some hard knocks, spending, just foolishly, get a little bit of money, spend it. Not preparing myself, not saving any kind of money. And as I got older, I started to say to myself, something has to change. Something has to change. Even as a loan officer, and when I was making good money, I wasn't managing the money that I was making. And if you guys, anybody remembers the crash, the mortgage crash. Now, I'm in this real nice townhome in Brooklyn Park, trying to live that lifestyle, trying to have different cars and trying to have that perception. But then when the industry crashed and I lost my job, so at the time I'm making 6 figures, but that's gross. I wasn't netting 6 figures, but my lifestyle was based on gross. So when I lost my job, I'm chasing, but my debt position was here, right? And my assets were here, but when I lost it, it flip-flopped. So it's kind of upside down. So thinking that I had a lot of assets, a lot of cash, arrogant, keep it real. I was arrogant, because I was still trying to maintain this lifestyle in front of your friends and your family, trying to, I still got it. But that money was dwindling year, month in, month out. And I was conning myself, I'll find it. Yeah, it'll happen. Never happened. Never happened. So I ended up losing everything. And thank God I have a great support system. My sister and my brother-in-law were very supportive and helped me, through some of those rough times. And I'll never forget that. So I'll just kind of move it up just a little bit. So I said to myself, if I ever get another chance to do this again, if I ever get another chance to own a home, I'm gonna live beneath my lifestyle. I'm gonna purchase a home that is less than what I gross. So in case anything happens to me, I'll be able to make my mortgage payment, I'll be able to maintain my home. The other thing I had to do, I had to do an audit on myself. That's where the discipline comes in. I had to look at the necessary spending versus unnecessary spending. And I had to step back, no more going down to J.D. Hoyt's for happy hour. Trying to buy clothes all the time. You know, no disrespect to the ladies, I had to get cheap.
That's okay, sometimes you have to, right?
Hey, you gotta get frugal, you know, because, you know, when you can afford these lavishing dinners, etc., when you broke, you can't do that, you know. So it took time, though. It took time. It didn't happen overnight either. That's one of the messages that I'll tell everybody that's listening. It's not gonna happen overnight. Take your time, but we have to make personal business decisions in order for your assets to rise, live within your lifestyle, so you can save and put money away. Certain things you gotta do without. You know, you gotta ask yourself, what's more important? So here we are 8 years later, and this is crazy. It doesn't seem like, you would think I was gonna tell you it was 20 years. 8 years later, I'm more financially sound, I'm more relaxed, I'm more secure, and what I'm doing and what I have, I'm more disciplined, because again, I'm not just gonna spend just to be spending. Now, don't get me wrong, I still got my habits. I go to the grocery store too much. You'll go in the cup, you want 1 or 2 items, you walk over 20 items. Yeah. That's crazy, but there's gonna be some still habits and you just work through them. But the most important thing is, do that, be disciplined. You know, highlight or audit yourself from this necessary to unnecessary spending. Just I'll end on this. We all know what your necessary spending is. You gotta pay your rent or your mortgage. That's necessary. You gotta pay your gas bill. Necessary. You gotta pay your light bill. Necessary. But what's unnecessary? And if you really discipline yourself and you highlight the unnecessary spending versus the necessary spending, and you compare your savings account to the unnecessary spending, and you find out why your savings account is always low, take a look at the unnecessary spending. You cut back on the unnecessary spending and now start taking that money and putting it in your savings, you're gonna see some changes in your savings account.
Definitely. And I'm gonna ask you the same question. I wanna have a follow-up question really quick for you. What do you attribute your ability to doing that self-check for yourself? How did you get that information to know that you had to audit yourself? What steps did you take to start that?
When you hit rock, pretty much hit rock bottom, and what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and thinking you're gonna get a different result. You just had to, it's a discipline. You just had to make a change. It was something inside me. And then I also want to give a little credit to my older sister, Tracy, and just watching how her and her husband, Daryl, give them a little shout out, a little plug, how they lived and the things they were able to do and how they managed their money. And, you know, I always said to myself, yeah, you know, and they never had anything over, you know, like they never drove any fancy cars or, you know, they lived within their means. And now both of them are retired, and Daryl's my age, and Tracy's just, I don't want to tell her yet.
I think discipline is gonna be an accord that we'll hear throughout this whole conversation. That's gonna be very important.
Yeah, not only discipline, but those sacrifices that you have to make and the commitment that you have to make to yourself. For me, it wasn't just about, you know, determining my needs and my wants, but accumulating those resources to help me sustain my finances and changing my mindset about my spending habits. You answered all 21 questions with that one.
You
right
did.
there. But you know, determining your needs and your wants, and you also touched on what I have a workshop that I present, it's called Keeping Up with the Joneses. And so it puts an emphasis on how we, especially, you know, the majority of us in my community, compare ourselves to what others have. Closing those money spendings on your budget, you know, being real with yourself about your income and you know, your income and your expenses, but taking a long, hard look at your spending plan to see, I've spent over $200 some on coffee this month. You know, and what's your goal? You know, create those SMART goals. You know, is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it achievable? Is it relevant? And setting a time frame on when you want to reach that goal. Because if you keep it wide open, you're just going to keep going and going and going. And so I used to be a poor single mother on welfare. You know, like you said in my introduction, I walked my own walk. And conquering debt and wealth building, I'm real passionate about interrupting generational poverty. I come from a very large family, and I mean large to the point where whoever bus came first, they sat at the table and ate breakfast. Then we rotate to the next group. And my family's out of Mississippi. We didn't sit around the table and talk about savings. It was just go to school, go to school, go to school. It wasn't until I was 40 years old that that light came on, because I was at that point of becoming an empty nester, and life had just passed me by. And I was spending money all willy-nilly. I had to have fancy cars. I had to be fresh to death every weekend, happy hour, and I really took a long, hard look at my spending plan. And so I sacrificed and minimized. I stopped going to the beauty shop every 2 weeks. Started doing my own hair. Stopped going to the nail shops, do my own nails. I quit smoking cigarettes. In my budget, I was spending $3,500 a year on cigarettes. And they was only $3.50 a pack back then. And so now I'm aging myself with this, because I used to go to Blockbuster Video every night after work. And you know, back then, they said be kind and rewind. If you did, they would charge you. So all these are those money leaks that I had to close. And so, you know, my financial success, living below my means, and not spending more than what's coming in. That's how I determine my financial success, and I live comfortably.
That's great. So how did you define for yourself what the money leaks were? Did you make a list? How did you start that process?
I was real with myself about my income, and then putting down, I was tracking every expense. I had receipts in my glove box, falling out the glove box. Wherever I went, I just kept those, and every month I would just add them up, and I could see we've been out to eat too much. I told my girlfriends, we're gonna quit doing happy hour. Let's just do a potluck, do happy hour at one of our homes, you know, instead of going out to eat all the time. And I lost a couple of acquaintances because it's a lifestyle change. You know, you no longer want to do some of those things, because my goal was homeownership. And I kept my budget and my SMART goal on my refrigerator. So every time I got ready to walk out the door, happy hour, I'm like, I went last week, I'm gonna chill this week. And just, you know, finding that support system, like-minded people who understood that you were making this change to build generational wealth in your family.
Thank you. So what are the first steps individuals should take to define their financial goals?
I think creating a plan, first assessing your finances, seeing what your financial conditions are right now, create that spending plan and create those goals. You know, because for me, I'm a goal setter. Now, I've never in my life been a goal setter. But now, even as a homeowner, you know, my goal would be, okay, I know I'm gonna get a furnace next year, or whatever the case may be. And then I call it minding your money, those big ticket items. Give yourself, I have a 24 to 48 hour rule. I mean, who doesn't want an 85-inch TV for $500? But I didn't need that TV, I just wanted it, so I went home and I slept on it. And when I woke up the next day, I'm like, I'm glad I didn't do that. So, you know, just being real with yourself about what your financial goals are going to help you achieve whatever it is, whatever financial goal you're trying to reach.
Good, that's that discipline again.
Yep.
All right. So, Trent, have you considered the impact of inflation or unexpected events on financial goals?
Absolutely. One of the things that everybody should be prepared for is an unforeseen expense. You know, something that you don't see coming. This is why it's so important to have reserves. This is why it's so important to have multiple accounts instead of, you know, when I was doing well, all my money was in one account. And then when I lost everything, that one account dwindled. But now I have multiple accounts and then I have an emergency fund. You know, so if something goes wrong or there's something or a need that I want, you know I'm not gonna pull that money out of my normal checking account. That money's gonna come out of my special account. But I have to have that discipline to put that money back. And that's the key. And just to piggy off Tanya, what she said earlier, you have to be honest with yourself too, you know, because we are the biggest con artists of ourselves. We will con ourselves into doing things or doing things we know we're not supposed to be doing. So, you know, in order to have those emergency funds, again, it's cutting back on some of those expenses. So one of the things I do in my job, I do a lot of one-on-one consultations for first-time home buyers. And we talk about lifestyle. What is your lifestyle? Where do you see your mortgage payment? And the most important thing is once you know, based on what you're paying in rent and what that projected mortgage payment is, can you still save? So that's the thing that we don't think about. Can we still save? Can I pay my mortgage? Can I pay my rent? Can I pay my car payment? Can I pay my utility bills? But do I still have enough to put money away? Can I still save? So that's the honest question that we all have to continue to ask ourselves. Because when we get paid, and most of us get paid twice a month, or some of us get paid weekly, out of that month, have you set yourself a goal to say, hey, I want to have at least $1,000 in my savings account? And for me, it started I got a job with Associated Bank. You know, I think I had like $200 in my savings account, and I said by the end of the year, I want to have at least $2,500 in my savings account. I didn't quite make it to 2,500, but that did not deter me. It didn't stop me from still pushing and getting that 2,500. Saving should be a habit. Once it becomes a habit, then it's nobody's yesterday, right? Instead of having, you know, we run into the challenges of savings because of the credit card that we have too. And I know we'll talk about that in one of the questions. Because when we have multiple debt and we're paying all these minimum payments, that takes away from our savings. So saving is a discipline, but it becomes a habit. And to this day, I still save. And I give myself an allowance every pay period.
Okay.
I just want to add to that. I encourage community members to do their savings automatically. Because one thing I know about us, we're resilient and we'll find a way to make ends meet on what we have, but that's where that spending plan comes in. I have what's called a put and take account. We know birthdays are coming, we know our car insurance is gonna be renewed, so you put that money in there just to take it out. You know, and then your personal savings, but start small, but we all should be saving something somewhere, creating those goals and making those sacrifices and managing that spending plan to create that cushion of savings, because we're gonna need the emergency savings. That's a whole other savings within itself. Right now, there's some online high yield savings account. And it took me a while to get to that point because it's online. There's no in-person brick and mortar. And I still have that survivor mode mentality when it comes to my money. So I was kind of apprehensive about starting an online savings account. I couldn't just go in, talk to someone, but I'm glad I did that. And I think we all should be putting something away every day.
Even your 401k, if you have an organization or you work for a company that is going to match your 401k, do it. You ain't gonna miss that little $65 or $70 or whatever it is on your paycheck. You're not gonna miss it. But that's free money, and they're gonna match it. So next thing you know, after a year, you might have $10,000, $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 in your 401k account. Again, this is just we talk about generational wealth. We talk about that. To me, it's a buzzword in the community, generational wealth. But how are we really creating generational wealth, and how are we really leaving something for our loved ones when we pass on, instead of if an untimely death happens, what do we see? A GoFundMe, because we're not taking care of our business. So I know we'll talk about that too, I'm sure.
So how would you advise on how to decide how much of your income that you can save each month? For people who don't have much, how would they start that?
Start small.
Yeah, I would say start small, $20 a month, you know, $15, whatever. Again, it goes to the necessary and unnecessary spending. Highlight, let's use coffee. A lot of people go to Caribou and Starbucks and all these coffee places. Now me, I don't pay for coffee. I'm drinking it for free at work.
Me too.
And I gotta get the flavors creamy, so. But there's a lot of folks that will spend $5 to $10 a day on coffee. Do the math. There's your savings. Drink the coffee at work. It's free. The cream is free and the sugar's free.
I've had to learn that. I've had to learn that, so.
Can I just add to that, even meal prepping on Sundays, that's what I do.
Okay.
I had a colleague ask me, Tanya, how come you never go out to eat? Because they was going out to eat and ordering in almost every day. And I asked her to save her receipts for 30 days and I'll answer her question. And she brought me the receipts and she said, well, this is all I saved. It's, you know, and I added them up, $278. Multiply that by 12. So I had to show her annually, because I also do my spending plan annually. Because if I'm spending $200 a month on coffee, what does that look like long term? That's money that can be used to pay down some debt, cushion some savings, and treat yourself. You know, so just closing those money leaks are major when it comes to saving money, but starting small and doing it automatically.
You know, that saving your receipts for 30 days is a good tip. I think if we just started with that and took a look at that, that would really help with that fact checking and checking yourself on what you're actually doing versus what you think you're doing, right? That's a good tip.
I call it bottom line accountability.
Right.
Yeah.
I like it. So can you please tell me, what does living beneath your means look like?
For me, it's spending less than what I have coming in and just being frugal about my habits. It's a mindset change. It's a lifestyle change, just like a diet or anything else. But once you gain that knowledge, I don't think I'm gonna ever go back to 400 credit score. You know what I mean? Because now I'm efficient in how to manage my money. I even, you know, like I said, I lost some acquaintances because people were always coming to me to borrow money. And I was borrowing it to them, I was getting it back, but no, you got a friend that's a financial educator certified, top women in finance honoree, and why are you calling me every week to borrow $20? What's really going on? And then I also encourage community members. I think this is very valuable to create a relationship with a financial institution, because a lot of people are still using check cashing places. And when you multiply what they're charging you to cash your check, that's money you're giving away. That too can be a savings.
I would just add, this is why you need to have a relationship with the bank. So, you know, the bank is the safest place to have your money. So I know we get into some issues with there's a check cashing system or whatever. Yeah, check systems when you've had, you know, bad checking accounts or, you know, you've written some bad checks. You know, like I said, you know, again, we're not taught a lot of these things. So now we have an opportunity to learn a new behavior. Think about that concept, you know, learn a new behavior, because the behavior that we have had isn't working and it hasn't worked.
Right.
So now we have an opportunity to change that behavior, and just imagine the opportunities that lie in front of you. Imagine the freedom, financial freedom that lays ahead of you, because you're living beneath or below your means. You know, everybody thinks you gotta sacrifice. Oh, I can't travel. You ain't gonna tell me I can't travel. I'm going out of town. Go out of town. Now, can you go out of town and when you come home, can you pay for that trip? Or are you going out of town and you put that trip on a credit card and now you're making a monthly payment on that trip? And that's that cycle, and we keep doing it over and over and over again. Some way, somehow, we gotta break that cycle. Cause I live below my means, but it don't look like it.
Right.
But I'm like Tanya said, I'm just as frugal as the next person. You know, again, you know, what's important. So just those behavior changes.
Can I just, you mentioned check systems. For those who are not familiar with that, check system is, something like the credit reporting bureaus, where they house your relationship with banks. For the most part, that stuff should fall off in your check systems report in 5 years, depending on what it is. But you also have a right to get a copy of that, as you do your, credit reports as well.
So when we talk about making relationships with banks, for people who are apprehensive or maybe have never gone to a bank before, how would you advise to begin that?
It's a good question. Just walk in the bank and go talk to a banker and have a conversation and be honest. Let that banker know if you've had challenges and that you're looking to, start a small savings account, start a checking account. Just start having those conversations, because again, the bank is your friend, right? And when you create a relationship with the bank, certain things are going to happen for you. You may need a line of credit. You're an entrepreneur and you run your own business. You may need a business line. There's a number of ways a bank can really support you and help you with your financial needs. There's a lot of banks that have financial empowerment seminars, credit empowerment seminars. Banks, again, they're not our enemies, but unfortunately, banks do have a bad reputation from the good old days of redlining and covenants and, racism within the bank industry. Black people were meant to feel, less than a human being walking into a bank. Trust me.
Yeah, we know.
But again, are we gonna let the system defeat us? Or are we gonna walk in the bank with our head held up high with the power that we have? Everybody that's listening online or in this room, you have power. So when we walk into the bank, we walk into the bank with our head held up high with power, and we sit to that banker and I say, hey, Miss Tanya, I want to open up a checking account. And then when Miss Tanya asks me a question, well, how much do you want to open it for? I'm ready to tell her I got $200, I want to open up a checking account, and guess what? I got VIP credit. That's power, you guys. That's power. We have to build that. We have to have that confidence, and I know all of us have it. But you just gotta know it inside you and dig it from below and let it out. Because when you got that power, there's nothing we can't do.
And that's what we're here to do, help with that power, with the Financial Empowerment Center, with ABAB, and our relationships. So how will living beneath your means impact your financial future?
Can I just respond to what you
sure.
said at
Definitely.
first? I prefer credit unions over banks.
Okay.
No fun intended.
You're here.
But I think, there's, like, I teach a financial workshop around the importance of being banked. Because there's a lot of people that don't know how to generate that relationship. I level that playing field and I use language in which community members can understand. Because sometimes that language is over our heads. And so creating that relationship with a financial institution, like I said, preferably a credit union, because you're a member, you have voting rights. There's no stakeholders whose pockets they have to line. Again, no pun intended. But create that relationship with a financial institution is going to be valuable for you.
Thank you. And then what would living beneath your means impact your financial future? So somebody decide, make the choices. How would that change the trajectory of their future?
Well, one, it would improve their credit, and that gives them buying power. Then home ownership may come into play. Now you build equity, so you build wealth, and just moving that needle towards generational wealth.
steps have you taken so far to work towards your financial goals outside of the savings and the different things that we discussed? What advice would you give someone else who's starting off from the very bottom, don't know really what to do? Besides the savings, what else would they do?
Credit union.
All right.
Yeah.
Also, building that network.
Yeah.
Getting that support. We got a rising rate of, come pop up in the neighborhood and just, build that network.
Question.
Yeah.
As part of the assessing where you are, if you don't have resources, do you sometimes encourage people to take a really hard look? And you may need to supplement your income. You may need to do some bartering with people with regard to different services. If someone does hair and you do something else, perhaps you can barter. But the goal is to minimize your debt so that you can do the things that you want to do and save. How do you help people over that stigma of having to do it?
For me, storytelling goes a long way. I used to be in these seats, and so now sharing my story, and I'm talking about being real upfront and honest about my background, where I came from, and how I landed where I'm at today. If I can do it, you can do it. And meeting people where they're at, being transparent, most people say create a safe space. I like to create a brave space where we can have these conversations and give community members the tools and the resources and letting them know you're not in this alone. I've been there too. And together we can make this happen. And I mentor some people. When I do my credit workshop and I encourage community members, go pull your credit report. And they'll call me, I don't know how to read this time. Sit them down and we're gonna go through this. And most of the times they're better off than what they really think because they've never been there before. They've never put their credit. They don't just like me, credit, what's that? I pay cash for everything. And so someone sat me down and really showed me the ropes and helped me create a budget. And I wanted it. You gotta want it, I always tell people when they come to my workshop, I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money. All I'm doing is giving you the tools and the resources. I'm planting seeds. How you nurture that seed to harvest what it is you're trying to grow in that garden, that's gonna be on you. But I'll be here to support you, mentor you, and they call me the queen of resources. If I can't find it, it probably don't exist.
I like that, create a brave space. You got something to add?
Yeah, I would just add too, it's, again, it still comes down to discipline too. But it also comes down to, we always think that we always have to support everybody, buy gifts all the time. Christmas is really kind of a hot spot, in the community. We always want to buy everybody a gift. I got to give my mom a gift, my brother, my sister, my cousin. Many years ago, and I got in trouble for this many years ago, I threw away the Christmas list. I just threw it away. I don't buy gifts anymore. And then, people would challenge me. They would say, well, especially when I'm teaching the credit class, they would say, well, Frank, I buy my Christmas gifts off season. I buy them when they're 30, 40% off. And I would say, well, to me, they're conning you. Because if you take those same items and you go to the stores a week before Christmas or Christmas Eve or 3 days before Christmas, those same items are 30, 40, and 50% off. So did you really save? So again, what we're here to say, we're not telling you don't live. The other thing I always try to tell people, I didn't read a whole bunch of books about financing. I wasn't born with no silver spoon in my mouth. I'm giving it to you from experience. I'm giving it to you from having and not having and having again and keeping the flow. And in order to keep the flow, again, there's just certain disciplines and certain things that we have to do as individuals. We can't tell you what to do. We can only give you the advice. But you as the individual has got to say to yourself, okay, let me see what my lifestyle is right now. How am I living? Am I struggling? Am I living chuck to chuck? Who am I blaming? why is my life the way it is? Do I need to get a second job? 'Cause sometimes you gotta do that. I mean, I worked a second job for 8 years. And even when I started, doing well again, and the gentleman that hired me for the second job, he said, "Are you gonna quit?" I said, "No," because the man, he had my back when I was struggling. So I said, "As long as you're at this clothing store, I'm gonna be at this clothing store." Then he moved to South Carolina, so I worked at the clothing store anymore. But again, it's just, it's just about just having that, making those sacrifices. But again, you still want to live. And again, what we're just doing this time, you're telling you, we're not telling you can't live. But what we are telling you, you got to make some business decisions in your own personal lives in order for things to change.
Can I just add, you nailed it, Deborah, with bartering, because if you know how to do hair, and I need a babysitter, or you need a babysitter, we can barter like that, because last time I got my hair braided often, it was $50. Now they're talking $250. And like I said, that mindset, that lifestyle, I just can't see myself paying that kind of money to get braids. And so even going to the beauty shop now, it's rare. I got some beauticians that come to my house, and I might help them with some resources about how to improve their credit, so that barter system. I planted my first garden this year, and I planted collard greens, bell peppers, cabbage, tomatoes, and produce is expensive.
Yes.
But I've been feeding my community too, because I didn't know they were gonna grow in abundance like that. And my grandson had helped me till the yard, and he said, "Grandma, this is hard work." I said, "Can you imagine how your ancestors felt when they did it, from sun up to sundown? And my garden 5 by 5 or something." So, that's another way. Grow your own produce. Get a side hustle. There's online jobs. There's so many different ways to earn extra income these days, that passive income. But bartering is something I'm good at.
I'm sure a lot of us would be able to barter with people that we know. If you just tap into your network with people that are around you, there's a lot of resources that you'd be able to take advantage of that way. That's good. That's good. So what are the top 3 financial goals people often want to achieve, would you say, people that you speak to?
Home ownership is one. Buying a car, which is probably one of the worst investments we can do because cars appreciate, and traveling. Or I would say home ownership, traveling, and then maybe buying a car.
Okay.
Those would be the 3 things that I always hear from people.
And
I always hear paying down credit agency savings and home.
what are the starting points for that? How do you advise someone to start that process?
Well, I encourage them to pay the minimum due if you can't pay nothing else. And if you get in a situation where your finances are at risk, call your credit card company, have a conversation with them, because they rather get their money than not, and they may work something out with you. But also, if you can pay more than the minimum due, go ahead and do that, because the quicker you get that paid down, especially the high interest rate cards, get those paid down quicker, so you can go ahead and start improving your credit score.
And what's considered a high interest rate card? What rate would you?
All of them high.
Discuss?
But I would say like 19%, 29%. Yeah, that's high. And then it depends on your credit score.
Okay. Did you have a question?
Well, we got a question from one of our viewers. They would like to know if you can talk a little bit about building personal assets. Now, remember, this is part 1 of a 2-part series. So part 1 being the foundation, how do you get yourself started to make your money make money? And so I don't want you to give away all of the next show, but hit on some of the ways people literally can make their money make money, because today we're getting people solid. We're getting them on solid ground and having to reestablish that relationship with money. That's what you're doing today. The next show will be how to make that money get out the house when you do and make some money. But we've got a question on the table. Can you talk about building assets?
Yeah, building it's pretty simple. Save, give yourself an allowance and put that money away and make sure that you continue to put that money away. So if you say to yourself, all right, I'm gonna go and open up a credit union or even a bank. You know, I gotta give River a plug. But if you say to yourself, you know, I wanna build my assets, and there's other ways of building assets. I mean, we have assets in our homes that we probably don't even know we have. I mean, there's probably some things in your house that you could possibly sell to build assets, but give yourself, again, an allowance, open up a separate account. And sometimes we'll tell people to open up an account at a credit union or a bank further out from where you live. Or you can open up an account and then have your HR department, you know, where you can have automatic deposit into that saving account based on wherever you want to put it at, but try to have it further out, you know, like 50, 75 miles, because you're not going to drive 50, 75 miles and go withdraw 20 bucks. And then have some stipulations on that account. That's one of the, you know, those are a couple reasons, couple things where you can start building assets. And then again, we all have things in our houses that we don't even use anymore, you know. Sometimes take those to what is the consignment shop? Consignments, yeah, take them to a consignment. And then the money that you get from those, you put that money into your savings account and then start building on that savings account. Then I just want to put back on the credit thing too, because as far as, you know, building your credit scores or maintaining, or, you know, when you feel overwhelmed, you know, with your credit, because we tend to get overwhelmed, and then there's all these people out there, there's all these folks, consumer credit counseling folks that we have to be very careful of. You know, one thing I always try to tell everybody, you didn't destroy your credit you didn't build your credit overnight. You're not gonna improve your credit overnight, right? It took time for things to happen. So just take one account at a time. Get one win. One win. Exactly. Because we get overwhelmed and then we just get frustrated, because this happened to me. You know, I got overwhelmed. I had a lot of credit cards. I had a lot of credit cards. I was the dum-dum at the Riverview, you know, looking at my line, what do I got to spend? Ooh, I got $50 on this one. I got $100 on this one. I'm going to use this one, you know. And Miss Tanya, what you drinking? That's what we cannot do. Yeah. But I got so overwhelmed, you know, one thing led to another. So just one account at a time, get one win, because when you get that one win, winning is contagious, and it's a feel-good moment. Because once you take one balance down, then you take that other balance down, and the next thing you know, you're back in the game. You know, exactly. You reward yourself, you treat yourself, but you do it within reason.
I would advise everyone to take notes of these things. The top 3 or top 5 that you feel like resonate with you, and take one. Start with one thing and then move on to the next and to the next. What would you say?
Absolutely, and in regards to assets, don't forget to cushion your retirement account. You know, that's an asset. You know, some employers offer FSAs, that's that you use it or you lose it, but there's that HSA, that goes with you for the rest of your life. So when you get into retirement, you're cushioning that to pay for your prescriptions and medical bills and so on and so forth. I think that came out in like the 80s, but I wish that would have been out way back when, because you think about it, that's also a savings account. It's specific to medical, but it's a savings account. You pay for your glasses, and you know, so that's also an option regarding assets.
So make sure you check out.
The company contributes to your HSA account too.
And you can invest some of your proceeds of that into the market.
Okay. So a lot of us, we should maybe go to our HR departments and see what's offered and look into that, because that could be an asset builder to begin with when we're starting off, right?
Right.
Another way of building assets is a CD. You know, I don't know what the credit union, what they're going to offer for CD. I know we got CDs up river. So if I say the credit union, I gotta say the river. I get to see, my boss, what you doing? No, serious, the CD also will help you build assets as well. So there's just to kind of summarize it up a little bit, again, it starts with you first. Pay yourself, open up a small savings account, build on that savings account, build on your 401k, that helps you with your assets. If you can do a CD, because you earn interest on a CD, see what the percentages are on the CDs, and then the HSA accounts as well. So there's all kinds of opportunities to build assets. And again, that's another way of having a conversation with a banker, regardless of where they're going.
Or credit union.
I got two questions came in. One about credit cards and the other one is about compound interest. So let's go with the compound interest question first, and then we'll segue back to the credit card question. So can someone please explain how compound interest works when it comes to CDs and
I'll let Trent take this one, but I would say that compound interest, he who knows it earns it, he who doesn't pays it.
There you go.
I'm with her.
If you have a balance on your credit card, that means you're paying interest. That interest is going to keep accumulating, which in the financial world they call it compounding. So it's going to keep growing, and that's why it's important to pay that off in full if you can, or pay more than the minimum so you don't have to pay as much interest, and that's compound interest. But when you pay it off in full, that's the interest that you're not paying any interest on.
Right.
And that's the best way I can explain compound interest in a way where we can understand.
now flip it for the CD? Because there's compound interest on the CD. If you buy a CD for $1,500 and the interest rate on that CD is 4.5, then you're making money off the 4.5.
I'm gonna defer that because that's not my strength that's a banker question, from the CD perspective. So.
Yeah, that's not in my wheelhouse either, but you're absolutely right. Once you open a CD or IE or online savings account, whatever that interest rate is, which is the APR, and for those of us who don't know how to calculate that APR, you just take that interest rate and divide it by 12. And that will show you how much you accumulate in that month. But whatever that interest rate is, that is how much you will accumulate. I just opened up online, say high yield savings account, think back here in December, and I've already accumulated over $600 in interest in addition to what I put in there.
I have a question pertaining to credit cards. As we talk about getting rid of credit card debt, how do you feel about the credit card shuffle? So say you currently have a high APR in your credit card and there's another credit card saying, hey, we have a 0 interest for a year and a half if you switch over, your debt from one credit card to the other. Do you advise that? Do you not? Is it kind of a savings, or does it depend on, or what?
That's a great question. It comes up a lot, and I do not advise that because it's a trap. That's when we start getting into the credit trap. And let me explain what I mean by that. And then it comes down to a discipline too of the individual. So you've got this one credit card with a $2,000 balance. Let's say it's at 19% interest. Then you get this credit card company, 0% for a year and a half. You transfer that $2,000 over to the 0% for a year and a half. Now, where's the discipline? Are we really going to pay that $2,000 off at 0% interest in a year and a half? This is where you have to be honest with yourself. Number two, am I not going to use this credit card anymore? Because that's where the trap comes in. Oh, the girls are calling. We're going to Vegas. You going to Vegas? Yeah, hey. Oh, wait, I just transferred that $2,000 over from this one account to this account. So now I got open to buy on this credit card. Oh, I might as well go ahead and charge that airline ticket, pay for my hotel. So now you're basically paying for that item twice because remember, you just transferred that to that 0% interest. I don't advise transferring any debt from one, credit card to a 0% interest, because again, one of the things that we don't do, we don't read the fine line.
You just took the words right out my mouth. You gotta be a reader.
Yeah,
Read
yeah,
the
right.
real small fine print.
Yeah.
And not to cut you off, Trent, but how many people read that 3-4 pamphlet that comes with their credit card? I do. Because guess what? When we're paying our car insurance and we're paying for roadside assistance and credit card, coverage and all of that, most credit cards offer that for free. And I encourage that in my workshops. Be a reader. When you see a commercial on TV, that little paragraph, you can only, that's where all the juicy information is at. So be a reader. And as he said, if you're disciplined and you know you're not gonna use that other card, because your goal is to get that $2,000 paid down and be diligent in getting that paid down, then that will work for you. But you wanna read that fine print, know what you're getting yourself in, and put that other card in the freezer on a block of ice and leave it there, don't use it, and pay that other one down. Look at your spending plan, you know, use cash for a while, you know, to get, until you get that $2,000 paid down.
And don't close it.
No.
Don't close the account, because if you close the account, the credit scores are gonna drop.
Yeah.
So you gotta be careful on that. And the last thing I'll say on that 0%, and this is why it's so important to read the fine line. It's so important to read what the APR is. It's so important to read, you know, what is that, where's that interest rate gonna go to over a year and a half? That thing's gonna shoot through exactly 25, 30%. Now they really got you. And then the other thing, we also have to be careful too, because look at the commercials when it talks about credit. What's the marketing, and who are they marketing to? You know, earning points, cash back. You know, how many people have gotten a check from a credit card company? You know, so we really gotta be careful how they're glorifying spending in the community. You know, they're making credit as a status. You know, what's in your wallet, the black card, the blue card, the gold card, you know, because, you know, they just observe people in the, you know, when you're on the wall, just observe when the person who wants to always pull out that metal, that is a metal card, you know. So we really gotta be careful about how credit is being marketed in the community, you know, and look at the spokespeople who are marketing credit, and they look like you and I. So we gotta be real careful, because there's the subliminal messaging. Spend. You get cash back, right? You get points. Okay.
In my Keeping Up with the Joneses workshop, we do an activity that talking back to advertising. The average person sees over 300,000 ads a year. Back in the 70s, it was probably about 1,000. I mean, when you think about it, it's on social media, it's on buses, on cars. They got airplanes flying over with banners. And so talking back, you know, to advertisement and getting off of that consumer treadmill, you know, when you're hungry, that commercial comes on. Burger King make burger, now you call it Instacart or DoorDash, where you could go to the store and it costs you $10. DoorDash gonna cost you about 25, 30. You know, so speaking back to that advertising is one of the activities that I teach in that workshop.
And what would they say back to that advertising?
Well, depending on, there's questions that are cute, because like one, you know, people don't really have magazines, but I got some magazine, one in particular that I never throw away is old. It's a Newport cigarette advertisement, and it's a black couple. And so the question is, what are they advertising? Do they tell you how much it costs? Does it tell you how's it gonna benefit you? So I have a list of questions. There's another one, there's these iced out boots. Rihanna wore them. How much are those boots? Do you need them? How are they gonna benefit your life? And so just talking back to that kind of stuff and reading that fine print is gonna be key, because you can't just go sign your contracts all willy-nilly. Back in the days when you went to get a cell phone, they give you a paper contract. Now it's on the tablet, and I always tell them, you might as well just go have a seat or print this off, because I need to read this. I need to know what I'm getting into, because you'll mess around and have a balloon fee on your cell phone, you won't even know it if you're not reading the contract.
Definitely. When they're trying to get you to sign, they scroll it all the way up.
Just
Sign here,
right
they'll
there.
give you a chance at the time. Yeah.
Even in the car dealership, I went to a car dealership one time, I was shopping for a car. You know, me being an educated consumer, I know the truth in lending laws, and They'll push the paperwork, here, sign right here, sign right there, you might as well get you a cup of coffee, didn't you? Cause I got some reading to do, and I'm gonna read it, and I always have a highlighter with me, and a magnifying glass, because I need to read what this fine print is, and I need to highlight where I need you to explain this to me in a way that I can understand before I sign this contract. Especially when we're shopping for big ticket items like that, you know, just like going to the car garage. You know, I know a little bit about cars, but I always take my car to the dealer and they'll have them what's wrong, how much it's gonna cost, and then I know my guy Neo over here on 42nd and Thomas, he tells me the same thing and the price is almost cut in half. So just, you know, networking, resourcing, asking questions, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Don't be afraid.
If they're not gonna answer those questions, then you probably don't wanna do business with them.
Definitely. You have any more questions?
I was gonna add one thing. I know that this is typically like just when you're in a better space to do something like this, but you had mentioned about like the point system with the credit cards or like the money back. And I think it's really important to do your research when you are looking for a bank, because a lot of young people, they're not actually gonna walk into a bank, sign up. They're gonna do it online. They're gonna hear something from their friends, and so they'll download an app. But I think in that case, it's super important to do your research, find a bank that's best for you, and then it does have benefits because some of them are good. I bank with Navy Federal, and I think they're a good bank, and they help me out a lot. I don't know if I should recommend this for people that are like still trying to figure things out, but I would say that it does help me to use my credit card and then just pay it off at the end, because it does give me points, and I do get points back, and I do get cash back sometimes. And that's because of the bank account that I have. And not all of them do that.
Yeah, and your key word was research.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like when you're shopping for a car or you're shopping for a house. You're not gonna buy the first house you walk into. You're gonna, you know, keep looking until you find exactly what you're looking for. I use NerdWallet and Bankrate, but you can put filters in to say what you want your credit card to do for you.
Right.
I'm not looking for no credit cards, but I like to have that knowledge, so when I'm helping someone read their credit report and talk about getting a credit card, I share that resource with them. And it's all about just doing your due diligence, because this is your financial portfolio, your financial future, your financial picture. You want whatever system you're dealing with to work for you in the way that you need it to work for you, so you can do what you can do.
Because it's also that thing with the free money, like getting all the money that you can, that's like given to you. It's like with the high yield savings account, if you just put it in a regular savings account, you're not gonna get much of anything back. But like you said, when you try it with the high yield savings account, you do see a nice little return. Like I tested out markets just to see what would happen, like what would be the difference. And for a while I didn't put anything in there, and it was just constantly giving me money. So I was like, okay, this is kind of nice. Like I didn't have to do anything. I just saved the money and it'll continue to grow for me. And then also like with the checking account, just doing your research. Like you can put it in a regular checking account that does not give you points or does not give you benefits for using your account, or you can use the credit card that does give you points, that does give you things for using your card.
So I'll challenge you on the credit card and using it. Again, it's just another method of telling you to use it.
Yeah,
You're
I
getting
know,
points,
I know.
Oh, now you got 50 points, so you go buy that airline ticket.
You're gonna do it, like some things you're gonna do anyway. Like some things
Right.
I'm gonna pay my rent, I'm gonna pay for groceries, we're gonna buy groceries. So if they have on your credit card, they give you certain amount of money back if you use it for gas, certain amount of money back if you use it at this specific grocery store, then that's better than just using it at a regular bank account that's not gonna give you anything. You're still gonna spend the money.
But that's where the discipline comes in. So you and your significant other have created a discipline program that you know that you want it to benefit you. Okay, so but we're talking to the individuals who are just trying to come up. You know, this is, you know, we're at the beginning level. So how do we get to your level? So that's what we're trying to explain, and what you're doing there is phenomenal. But again, it didn't happen overnight. It took time It took some discipline, it took some sacrificing, you know, in order for you guys to get to that level, to get there, so.
Is that
So good job.
that discipline for
Yeah,
So what's the
like
top
foundation.
takeaway that you want people to take from this conversation here?
I would say, be honest with yourself about your finances, your income and your expenses. Look at your expenses, close those money leaks, starts and savings account. Get in, you know, with like-minded people. And if you don't have a financial institution, check in with credit.
Do an audit, on yourself. I think that's where it starts at. Do an audit on yourself, you know, go through your spending patterns, highlight your necessary spending, and then highlight your unnecessary spending, you know, and then create your game plan based on your necessary and unnecessary spending.
Close those money leaks.
Close the money leaks. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for everyone who's attended. We want to thank our sponsors. Without them, there'd be no us. And thank you for joining us for part one of Making Your Money Make Money.